And the importance of what we do is influence people, right? So leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. If we can't influence people, we can't lead people. In vision, I want you to think about vision is where we go as an organization. I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to think about developing an organization that is excellent. Developing an organization that people are engaged. Developing an organization that people are productive. Developing an organization that's professional, that's prideful. And how does this happen? This doesn't happen by chance, right? One of the things that I think was really exciting was in 2014, my organization had the opportunity to win the EMS Service of the Year nationally. And I set that as a vision for them to say that this is something that we were going to do together. You could open your eyes now. If you've had that opportunity to see it, we are wired to think in pictures. And in the absence of a picture, we don't know where we're going, right? Now that we have that vision of creating organizational excellence, operational efficiency, how do we do that? Well, that's where strategy comes in. And strategy is all about making the vision a reality. We are wired to think in pictures, right? And then we need the strategy and the plan of how we're going to determine how to make that strategy or how to make that vision a reality. Now, culture is the behavior of the organization en route to reaching the vision. And we're going to examine culture today. We're going to talk about why it matters. We're going to talk about how misalignment can emerge. We're going to talk about toxic cultures. And really, this is going to be based on the 7 pillars of accountability. Do you want to create an organization that's excellent? Do you want to create an organization that is going to reach the vision? How many of you in this class today, in your organization, you have a vision? Who can recite that vision for me? If you as the leader do not know what the vision of the organization is, why does the workforce need to know what the vision of the organization is? Is the vision important? It is important. This is where we begin. And I want you to think about something before we even start to click through these slides. I want you to think about a difficult shift, a call that didn't go as planned, a breakdown in communication, a moment where accountability wasn't there. Now ask yourself, was this a training issue? There are only 4 reasons that people have challenges inside an organization. It was training, it was something in their environment, it was equipment, or it was just a behavioral issue. Anytime you have a challenge with an employee, you have to put it in one of those 4 buckets. We like to think that our problems come from a lack of resources, ladies and gentlemen, but the truth is most organizations don't have a resource problem. They have a leadership and they have a culture problem. And that's what we're going to talk about here. Okay, so if we go through these slides now, let me figure out how to make my screen work. I'm trying something different here. And why does accountability matter? And this is what makes it real, right? When we say accountability is strong, what does that mean? People stay. People feel respected. People feel supported. You know, we have a recruitment issue in EMS. Did you know that? We can't get people in the seats. You know what? If we didn't have a retention issue, we wouldn't have a recruitment issue. And now what we need to think about is how do we make our organization as tight as it can be. Clinical performance will improve with good accountability. Documentation improves for billing. Patient care improves, which is why we're in the business of what we're doing. Operations will run smoother. There'll be fewer delays. There'll be better coordination. But when accountability is weak, what do we see inside the organization? We see burnout. We see turnover. We see frustration. And phrases like, you know, that's just not my job, or no one told me. That's what culture is. Today, the 7 pillars aren't just abstract leadership theory, ladies and gentlemen. We are connecting the challenges that we have in an organization: burnout, turnover, inconsistent documentation, community trust. And we are developing an organization of excellence. If we're going to be in a leadership position, what is our responsibility to ensure that we create an excellent organization? I just took a new position. And in the position, it's a little bit broken. right? As the chief of EMS there's communication issues. There's accountability issues. There's engagement issues. There's leadership issues. But really, this is going to come down to the culture. And this is why I was excited to do this class, because I am bringing the 7 pillars of accountability into this new organization. And when we think about this from a standpoint of what we do, we have to first understand what organizational culture means. Culture is simple. It's how things get done around here, right? That's the way we do things. It's not policies. It's not a mission statement. It's behavior. It's what happens when no one is watching. You know, we work in a very interesting field that we bring people into the organization, we train them, they sit through an academy, we put them in an ambulance, and we say, go forth and heal. And what they do inside that ambulance and what they do inside that patient's home is behavior. And can we trust those people to do what we need them to do? That's the moment of truth. How people respond under pressure, how mistakes are handled, what gets rewarded, what gets ignored. Culture is always forming. You know, you can develop a negative culture in 2 weeks, and it'll take you 18 months to 2 years to change that culture back. Culture shows up in how your crews respond to a tough call, how your team handles mistakes, and what gets rewarded and what gets tolerated, what you permit, you promote inside your organization. And you have to be able to ensure that we're setting the standards for others to follow. Now, there's a leadership perception gap, and this is the hard truth here. The gap inside organizations is what the leader believes is going on. But it really is what the workforce is experiencing that's different. Why is there a disconnect? Most people hear about values, but fewer believe that the leadership of the organization lives them. And that's where that disconnect comes from. You know, we think about perceived versus practice values, and this comes for Resume Now. And this was a research study they did in 2025, or Resume Now, depending on how you want to say it, depending on what part of the United States. 86% of employees say that the company values are clearly communicated, but only 47% believe that the values are being upheld by leadership. When we think about strategic clarity and breakdown, this comes from MIT Sloan in a research project that they did in 2024. 97% of senior leaders claim to understand company priorities, but only 28% of managers can accurately name top 3 of the organization's priorities. That's a problem, right? So when we think about this from the perceived versus the breakdown or the practice values, there has to be consistency. And we have to be able to know that what we say is what's being transferred down to the workforce, but what the workforce is telling us is going up to senior leadership as well. Me as the chief, one of the questions that I'll ask the members of my workforce is, if you were the chief of this department, what's the one thing you would change and why? If I don't know what they're going to say, there's a disconnect, right? I may think I know what has to change, but if they're telling me something that's not even on my radar, I need to be able to figure that out. And then we've got to determine how are we going to close the gap and how are we going to increase the feedback loop. Transparent surveys, focus groups, culture audits. Are we doing that as leaders? Or are we just assuming that the culture is positive? Well, once you do that, you know that you're going to have a challenge, because if you don't know the answer, we're going to have a breakdown in our culture. Culture determines performance under pressure. It's not policy. It's not protocol. I've said it before. It really is the behavior of the organization in reaching the vision. We have to be able to ensure that our culture stays strong. Weak culture quietly works against our vision. We need to step towards the vision every day. If we don't step towards the vision every day, we fail our organization. And what's the purpose of doing it? Our job as leaders is to get work done through other people. And then we have to get the very best work out of those people. You can have the best protocols. You can have the best policies. You can have the best equipment. But if your culture is poor, those tools won't work effectively. It's the culture that amplifies the mission or works quietly against the mission. We may think we have a good process. We may think we have a good procedures. We may think we have a good organization, but it's the culture of the organization that's going to ruin that for us. Culture isn't declared, it's modeled. It's modeled through behavior. It's modeled through repetition. It's modeled through the same communication structure. It's modeled through influencing people, ensuring that they're the most important component to the success of the organization. There is no one job in an organization that is more important than the other. I got to tell you what, in EMS, that's a tough thing to hear, right? I'm the chief of EMS. I am the chief of this department. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It means I have different responsibilities from the EMT that's going into somebody's house at 3 o'clock in the morning. Is his job, her job, any less important than my job? If they don't do their job, I have no budget. If they don't do their job, I don't have to worry about resource management. Culture doesn't change overnight, but it builds slowly, call by call, interaction by interaction. And it's not created by a memo. It's created by what people see that is modeled by leadership every day. We set the standards for others to follow. If we don't set those standards, standards won't happen. And then what happens? We start to develop a toxic culture. Toxic culture doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in. It creeps in through inconsistency. It creeps in through silence. It creeps in through lack of communication. It creeps in through lack of recognition. And eventually, your people will stop caring. And they will take care of themselves. In the absence of communication, that's when the fighting starts. That's when the bickering starts. That's when the unprofessional behavior starts. But there's got to be an answer, Chris. What's the answer? I'm glad you asked me that. The answer is the 7 pillars of accountability. We're going to go through these 7 pillars. And you have to be able to ensure that when you are in a leadership position, and what does leadership mean? It's a verb. It's not a position. It's not a title. I've written 5 leadership books. 4 of them #1 best-selling. Does that make me a leader? It makes me some guy that knows how to write. I wrote them in crayon, but I mean, I wrote it. We need to be able to ensure that we set the standards for others to follow. 7 pillars of accountability is what gives us that. And those are character, unity, learning, tracking, urgency, reputation, and evolving. I'm going to take you through these one by one. But I want you to look at them. Because leadership is a verb. It's an action. You need to show your leadership every day. And this is how we're going to ensure that we create a positive culture. First, it is all about your character. Your character is the foundation of who you are as a leader. It's who you are when nobody's watching. Don Lundy, who used to be the president of NEMT, longtime friend of mine, used to say every time when he left his house, it was Act 1, Scene 1, action. Right? Because people are watching you as soon as you leave your house. In any organization, character is what shows up under pressure. When the call is chaotic, when documentation matters, when shortcuts are tempting. We love those shortcuts, don't we? Character is revealed in the small moments, not the big ones. Crews watch how leaders act when mistakes happen. I got to tell you, man, in my career, I watched leaders make some great decisions when we were under pressure where I thought there were no answers. And they went ahead and pulled this, the action out of their bag of tricks. And it was amazing. Character, or without character in your leadership toolbox, you can't build trust. And without trust, your leadership will fail. And why is this important? Because it sets the tone for the organization. No one talks about anyone else inside that organization. No one jokes about anyone else inside that organization. We are a team. We invited these people into our organization to help us to be successful. I want to say that again. We invite people into our organization to help us to be successful. The true measurement of leadership success, and if you're taking notes, write this down, is how engaged, satisfied, and productive the workforce is. Nothing else. So how do you build character? How do you cultivate character? It's all about self-awareness. It's being intentional. Character doesn't happen by accident. It's built intentionally. And developing character is an ongoing journey of self-awareness. Why do you react the way that you do? Why does this person push your buttons? Why do you get upset when there's a traffic jam and you have road rage? This is all about intentional actions. It's about ethical consistency. It starts with knowing who you are and what you stand for. You set the standard as a leader. And then ensuring that your actions reflect those principles at all time. I want you to ask yourself, would I respect working for me? Would you work for you? You got to own your mistakes. I will make mistakes in this new role as a leader. Then I will stand up and say, I made a mistake. Never allow ethical shortcuts to become your normal. We're going to make mistakes. We admit them and we move on. Are we a one-mistake organization? We shouldn't be. This is all about consistency, and we need to be consistent, because without inconsistency, or with inconsistency, it destroys our credibility. And it's going to destroy our credibility fast. All right, number 2. Unity. I said it. We invite these people into our organization to help us to be successful. We are a team. I used to say tongue-in-cheek for years, if we can get rid of the workforce, our job as leaders would be easy. That's not practical, though. Unity is about alignment. It's not just about working together. It's about moving in the same direction. And what direction are we heading in? To reach the vision. Unity is essential because work is interdependent. No one job in an organization that's more important than the other. Whether it's dispatch, whether it's field, whether it's hospital handoffs, whether it's, our stakeholders. No organization operates in isolation. Unity is not about everyone agreeing. I don't want everybody to agree with me as a leader. I want to hear your voice, though. But it's maintaining alignment despite the challenges, despite the conflicts, despite the differences. Unity is the glue that holds the EMS team together. It holds the organization together. And when there's unity, communication improves, trust increases, performance improves. When unity is lacking, that's where we start to see a toxic culture. That's where we start to see silos. That's where we start to see communication breakdown. That's where we start to see morale suffer. Everybody is part of the same team. We don't talk about our teammates. We don't make fun of our teammates. We coach our teammates to be the best that they can be. When it comes to developing unity, we set the standard for others to follow. This is all about unity being an intentional leadership skill. How do we do it? We hold meetings. We actually engage people. One of the things that I will ask people is, what can I do for you today? 3 questions I ask them. If you were the chief, what would you change? Number 2 is, what can I do for you today? Number 3 is, what advice do you have for me to be a better leader for you? Just because I have a leadership style that I think is strong, I'm going to think I'm a good leader. Doesn't mean my style is for everybody. And what advice do you have for me to be a better leader for you? I invited you into this organization to help us be successful. You have a voice, you have an opinion, and you have to own this organization as well as I do. People don't commit to organizations. They commit to the teams that they feel a part of. And we have to create that for them. Number 3, one of my favorites. Learning. Learning is a mindset. It's not just continuing education. Learning represents the ongoing pursuit of knowledge, of skill development, of personal growth, of reflective leadership in our organizations. Learning is more than just attending continuing education courses. It's a mindset and culture. Everything we need to do needs to ensure that we're growing and moving forward. John Maxwell talks about this in his 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. It's the law of process. Leadership doesn't develop in a day, but it develops daily. How are you going to grow your leadership today? If you're in a position of responsibility, you have to earn your leadership every day. Michael Jordan gave us that quote. It's about being open to new ideas. It's about asking people's opinion. It's about constantly evaluating your performance and striving to improve it. If we're going to be effective leaders, we need to recognize that everything that we do could be learned and done better. Why do we do it that way? It's the way we've always done it. Is that the culture that we want in our organization? Or do we want to be able to say that it's because it's efficient, it's effective, it's the best practice, it's a good return on investment? That's the answers we should be making. That's the answers we should be giving. Everything that we do deserves feedback, good or bad. Our best providers are always asking why. I got to tell you, man, EMS is a very egotistical business. I don't know if you know that. But it's the egotism that keeps us from asking the question why, because we don't want to look like we don't know what we're talking about in front of our peers. If you know everything there is to know about EMS, raise your hand. I became a paramedic in 1986. I don't know everything there is to know about EMS. I try, but I don't. We need to be able to continue to grow. We need to know our strengths. We need to know our weaknesses. How do your weaknesses affect your strength? I'm good at communication, but I'm not a good public speaker. Well, then you're not good in communication. Growth is important, and we need to figure out ways to become the best that we can be. How do we nurture that learning? Man, we got to put ourselves in a position that we can just get to the next level of our being the best that we can with skill mastery. We've got to create an environment for learning, not just for us, but for the people in our organization. If we know that the number one call that gives the EMTs and the paramedics the most trepidation is pediatric calls, and we're their leaders, what are we doing to make that a strength for them? When a mother hands you a 3-month-old that's in cardiac arrest and you don't feel comfortable with that arrest, we are just as culpable of that as that EMT and paramedic in dealing with that arrest, because we knew it was their weakness and we did nothing to help them fix it. We've got to be able to ensure that they are as tight as they can be in their skills, both personally and professionally. You know how many people I've taught how to manage their finances? How to save for retirement, how to buy homes? Where does that come into my responsibility as a leader? I got to teach them how to buy a house? You know what? It was prideful for me to do that. I helped an EMT start his own business. We built a business plan. We got him a grant. He's not working in EMS anymore. But you know what? I feel that was success inside my organization to help them to get from point A to point B. What is your responsibility in helping them to become the best that they can be? Pillar number 4, tracking. It's all about data, man. If we're not measuring our performance, we're guessing. How do we know that we do a good job? Don't tell me, show me. What is our response time? What is our time to first shock in cardiac arrest? What is our employee engagement? What are the KPIs that make a difference inside your organization? Key performance indicators. Tracking is the process of monitoring and measuring and analyzing everything that we do. Don't tell me, show me. In our organizations, tracking turns the abstract into tangible results. And then I can develop an action plan of how I'm going to fix that metric. If we're not doing the best excellent work that we can, why are we doing what we're doing? Are we happy with status quo? Are we happy with the ho-hum and the humdrum? Our job as leaders is to develop an excellent organization. And if we're not striving for excellence, we shouldn't be in leadership positions. Tracking is not about micromanaging. It's about using the information that drives the improvement, that rewards success, that identifies areas that need our support. And tracking creates clarity. I know exactly where we are in our drop-off times. I know exactly where we are in our retention. I know exactly where we are in people coming to work on time. And you know what? Once I know that, if I don't do anything about it, I am failing my organization. Again, this isn't micromanagement. This is leading through clarity. And how do we develop tracking? You know what? We've talked about goals. Part of the Lighthouse Leadership Program, you should have developed goals of what you wanted to attain during this class, during this tenure. Tony Bixby was my mentor in the first Lighthouse Leadership class. Casey was in that class. We sat down and we said, what do you want to do? He says, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. Now, he's done them all. He got his master's degree. He's spoken at the national level. He's been a published author. And now he's on the board of directors of NAEMT. But it all starts with data. It all starts with developing the things that you need to develop in your goals. Use your SMART goals. Monitor your KPIs. Use visual dashboards when possible. Power BI is becoming the normal of making sure that we can see our KPIs in real time. Your data and what you monitor motivates improvement. Make sure you stay in that line. Don't create fear here. You create excellence here. And that's what tracking does. Pillar number 5, developing the sense of urgency. Everything we do needs to be done, and it needs to be done right now. Urgency is action. It's responsiveness. It's follow through. Urgency in leadership, ladies and gentlemen, means that responding to the needs and the challenges and the opportunities of your organization in a timely and effective, proactive way. Inside our organizations, urgency is more than just response times. It's internal drive. It's to act without hesitation. It's to move decisions swiftly. It's to move operations forward. It's to ensure that the important tasks don't fall by the wayside. And it ensures that leadership is responsive rather than reactive. We need to be anticipatory inside our organizations. EMS is usually reactionary. We know what we need to develop an excellent organization. We know what we need to ensure that our organizations are becoming the best. You know what? I want the best organization in EMS. I want us to set the standards for others to follow. I want our workforce to be knowledgeable. I want our workforce to ensure that they're delivering the highest quality of care to the patients that we serve. That's my pride in being a leader. That's my responsibility in being a leader. Urgency is not about panic. It's about controlled action. Doesn't it say that somewhere, controlled action? It doesn't. But urgency is about controlled action. I need to put that in there. Without urgency, our leadership stalls. And a stalled system fails. What's the best way to develop urgency? We have to set it as our guiding criteria. Everything we do is getting to the vision that we want to achieve. Why do you have a vision statement in your organization if you don't use it? I love asking that question. Who has a vision statement? Now, who can recite it for me? Now, you may be saying, you know what? I'm not the chief of the department. I'm not in senior leadership. You don't have to be. Leadership is action. It's a verb. You take these 7 pillars and you start them at your level. Your leadership is defined by your character. Your leadership is defined by how you make people part of a team. Your leadership is defined by what you measure and what you're doing with that information. You address issues when they arise, not later. And you know what? Bring people along on this ride to let them help you fix these things that need to be fixed. There are people inside your organization that want to take a step one day into a leadership position, into a position of responsibility. Let them help you do some things that you want to teach them. That's part of being delegative. When it comes to urgency, be responsive. Make sure that you step towards your vision every day. You as a leader, if you don't step towards your vision every day, you fail your organization. Again, if you don't know what the vision of the organization is, you fail your organization. And how do we make that happen? Number 6, reputation. Your reputation is your leadership brand. I didn't really introduce myself when I started. I figured that was done. People knew that Chris Cebollero was coming. But I need to be able to probably give you a little bit of background of who I was. But I'll do it at the end now since we've started into this. But when I teach a class, people know what they're going to get. This is what you get. You're lucky I'm not standing up, because I'd be more boisterous and I'd be more animated and I'd be more passionate. Because once my feet start moving, it makes my heart pound. But my reputation is my brand. When you get in front of a class with me, you know exactly what you're going to get. When you work for me in my organizations, and nobody works for me, we all work together, people know what they're going to get. You don't come into this organization and work with us if you're not going to move us towards our vision every day. Reputation is the sum of how consistently you show up, how consistently you follow through. Let me ask you a question. You ever have a leader say to you, "Let me get back to you," and they never did? How did it make you feel? Let me ask you this question. You ever tell somebody you get back to them and you never did? How do you think it made them feel? What did it do for your character? What did it do for your reputation? Your reputation is built not on what you say, but it's built on the actions that you do. If I don't have time, I'm going to put that note in my phone and say, "Hey, I got to get back with Doug. He wants to know about this thing." Right? I'll call you and tell you what it is. In our organizations, reputation is everything. And there's a Japanese proverb that says, the reputation of 1,000 years is destroyed in 1 second. We have to ensure that our reputation determines that people know that they can trust us, that they can respect our authority, and that they can feel comfortable in our leadership. And Doug, I noticed that there may be some questions. If there's questions that pop up, I am going to take questions at the end, but if there's something that needs to be clarified, could you please just let me know?
Will do.
Thank you, sir. So your team already knows your reputation, and you've got to build that reputation every day. Again, would you work for you? Would you trust working for you? That's your litmus test. Because people are asking, can I trust? I'm into this new organization, and I'm setting a standard. Do we have a vision statement? Not one I could use yet. So what am I going to do? I'm going to get the workforce to the table. I'm going to get the leaders to the table. And we're going to write a vision for the next 5 to 10 years. And we're going to make sure that vision becomes a reality. One day, I will ensure that my organization can compete and win the EMS Service of the Year award. How's that for a vision we set for the organization? You follow me, and we will be the best EMS agency in the United States. How's that for a reputation? Is that something that people can buy into? How do we develop our reputation? You can see in the column, be trustworthy. Always get back. Always get back. Be respectful for people. Sometimes there's people that, you know what? We may not like them. We don't have to like them, though. But they're working for our organization. I had somebody that worked with me in an organization that was a devil worshiper. Devil worshiper. In this day and age. He had the little things in his head that he would screw with these horns in his head. But you know what? If my kid needed a paramedic, He was the guy I wanted to send to my house. I don't agree with his philosophy of theology or that lack thereof. But you know what? This guy was an incredible teammate. He was an incredible employee. He was a phenomenal paramedic. I just didn't agree with his philosophies of life. But we're respectful of him, regardless of what his beliefs are. Especially in this day and age. Ladies and gentlemen, what's the issue with politics? Just because you're on one side and I'm on one side, we got to hate each other? Just because you're this religion and I'm this religion, we can't get along? What's happening here? Inside our organizations, we respect everyone. We invited these people into our organization to help us to be successful. They're part of our team. That's part of unity. Your reputation is earned slowly, and it's lost quickly. Protect it. Number 7 of the 7 pillars. Evolution. EMS is changing. Business is changing. We have to ensure that it's evolving. We've seen a lot of things happening in our career field over the years, right? I heard somebody say the new community paramedic. No, it's not new. We've been doing it since 2008. It's almost 20 years old we've been doing this. If we're not evolving, we're failing. We need to be anticipatory in the things that we do. We need to ensure that our organizations are setting the standards for others to follow. Evolution in leadership means that we're continually adapting. We're becoming anticipatory. We're improving. We're innovating. We're meeting the demands of a changing landscape. It's the ability to recognize that when traditional ways no longer work, what is the future going to look like? And what's the transformation that we can do to make that happen? Evolution is about staying relevant. And this goes into learning of staying relevant. Leaders who resist change, ladies and gentlemen, will fail. We have to be able to ensure that our organizations move forward and we're setting the standards. Does that mean everything we do is going to be successful? No. I've done things in my career that have been total failures. One of them was changing a training process. The training process was horrible. I'm going to set a new training process because this one is just too long. 3 months we developed this training process. We finally put it into place, and it extended the training process, doubled the time that it was to the old one that I hated because it was so long. I had to stand in front of the workforce and said, you know what? We got to go back to this old training process, and I screwed this up. I apologize. But you know what? We tried it. How do we develop evolution? This requires intentionality. This requires your vision. Why do we need to change? How do we become the best EMS agency in the United States? It's through evolution. It's through transformation. We have to have intentional leadership when it comes to how we're going to develop our organizations. I consider myself to be a subject matter expert when it comes to EMS. Does that mean I know everything there is to know about EMS? No. But I try. And if I don't know, I'm going to find out. But if I don't know, I've got peers around the United States that I can call. I've got the Chris Ways and the Casey Smiths and the Dougs and everybody. Even Elizabeth. Look, she's on the call. I've talked to her about transformation.
Yes, sir.
This is your network. One of the things that's really cool about the Lighthouse Leadership Program, and again, I was in the first mentor group. We helped develop this program. Elizabeth and Casey are here. I don't know who else is here. I can't see. They were in the first group. Why are they here now 2 groups later? Why? It's the program. It's the camaraderie. It's trying to develop this program into the next generation and to help to set the standards for others to follow. That's evolution, man. This is your group. There's 18 people on this call. Can't see them all. But you guys are setting the standards for others to follow in this program. But inside your organization, you've got to be able to ensure that people want to stay. You won't have a recruiting issue if you don't have a retention issue. People will be lining up to join your organization. 7 pillars, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are. Character, unity, learning, tracking, urgency, reputation, evolving. If you follow these things, if you bring these into your organization, your culture is going to be as tight as it can be. People are going to want to work there. People are going to want to be part, and they're not going to want to leave. And if they do leave, we're going to ensure that there's going to be people behind them. 7 pillars of accountability. They're not just concept, ladies and gentlemen. They're foundation to exceptional leadership. Each pillar provides a critical lens through which you as a leader can evaluate behavior, decisions, team culture, impact, patient care, organizational success. What more do you need? It's here. It has to be a process. It can't just be, I hope it's going to work. What are you doing in your action to ensure that your organization is going to be excellent? Your character, it anchors your leadership in your integrity and ethical culture. The unity, it binds the team together. It develops purpose. It develops shared values. Learning fuels growth. Helps people get from point A to point B. Helps them with skill mastery. We got to get rid of progressive discipline, too, in our organizations. It's antiquated. It's old. We're not their parents. We don't punish people. We need to coach them. We need to help them become the best that they can be. Tracking, I got to tell you what, I'm a leader that I want to see the data. Don't tell me, show me. Make sure that we have goals. Make sure our goals are measurable. Make sure that they're actionable. Make sure they're transparent. I've started to post people who aren't finishing their charts before they leave work so everybody can see who it is. Is that bad? Is that wrong? No, because we're an organization that says 100% chart completion before you leave work. Your reputation, all right, past urgency. We need to be effective in what we do. Reputation, this is our leadership legacy. You are writing your legacy every single day. When you leave, I'm getting ready, man. This is my last job I'll have before I retire and go off into the great EMS world in the sky. What do I want my EMS legacy to be, my reputation to be? You build your legacy every day and you stand behind it. And finally, evolving. This is what keeps your organizational agile, forward-thinking, resilient. Man, I got to tell you, man, as I close this up for you, accountability begins with your leadership. It's your behavior. You set the standard. Your direction. You set the tone. Your attitude. You set and shape the culture. Even if you do it at your level, you don't have to be the leader of the organization, the chief of the organization, the president of the organization. You could do it where you live. You could do it in your sphere of responsibility. True accountability isn't about micromanagement. It's not about discipline. It's about creating shared ownership, empowerment, trust. Leaders, you have a ripple effect inside your organization. I am wearing a uniform now, so I could set the standard for my people to know what they should look like in their uniform, because they looked horrible. Pants were in their boots. Shirts were untucked. Hair wasn't combed. You know what? This is what I want you to look like. I had an employee say, do I have to tell you one more time to tuck in your shirt? He says, when I go to the patient's house, my shirt's tucked in. I said, I want your shirt tucked in every day, every minute of every day, and look professional every minute of every day. You think your shirt's going to be untucked the next time he sees me? You've got to set that standard. The way that you lead today shapes how your folks will serve tomorrow. And remember, they're serving the patients, they're serving the clients, they're serving the customers. Culture fosters impact that will be able to be seen by the people that we serve. Leadership is not a position or a title. It's an action. It's example. Now what you have to do is you got to take this information and you got to lead with purpose, lead with integrity, and lead with accountability. I put a 40-page ebook that I wrote for this course. I promise I speak New York, so I hear that sometimes. I have to fix my verbiage. That was right there. But that I built for this course. And check it out. Read it. Set that standard for others to follow. All right. Let me go ahead and do this. I guess that's it for me. My name is Chris. I'll be your paramedic today. I do want to be able to take your questions. I'm going to stop this so you guys can see me. And there I am. That's what I look like in real life, everybody. So when we think about this from a standpoint of accountability, when we think about this from a standpoint of culture, when we think about this from how you set the standards for others to follow, what questions can I answer for you? Oh, Tony was on. Look, I'm talking about you, man. You're right there.
Chris, I have one for you. So a lot of these folks are progressing into middle management, and they say, okay, I've adopted your 7 pillars and I am living that dream every day. But those above me, there's some gaps there. How do I change that? My term is always lead up and continue to hold to my passions. How do you answer that?
Yeah, man, I think it's a great question. And leaders will see the difference that you're making at your level. How is it that everybody's going to Tony? How is it that everybody's going to Patrick? How is it that everybody's going to Ebony? What is Ebony doing that's making a difference in our organization? Well, she's enacted the 7 pillars. So I didn't tell her to do that as a senior leader. She started doing it. She started holding people accountable. She started ensuring people were professional. And you know what? People are going to her as a go-to leader. They're going to Sheila as a go-to leader. They're going to Jennifer as a go-to leader. That's how you set the standard. And then as a leader, if I care about my workforce, I'm going to say, what do I got to do to make sure that I'm getting that respect? You don't worry about what happens above you. You set the standards where you are. And people will follow you. And then people above you will notice you. When they know you're trustworthy, when they know you have a good reputation, when they know that you're using KPIs to track and make things better, not only does that help your future to get further positions, but they're going to say, we should be doing that too. Right? Because they're not going to want to fit. Why do they want you to be successful over them? That's how you do it. What other questions? Somebody put in the chat. Let me see. Let me pull the chat up now. How do you get my book?
Jennifer asked, about your book.
There's a lot of books out there. I just wrote a new book called The Art of War for Leaders. I took the art of war and I put it into business practice. Send me your emails, Doug, or whoever, Ram. Send me these emails of the folks that are here. I'll send you a free ebook. I'll send it to you in your email. The only thing I would ask is when you read it, go ahead and write me a review on Amazon. I appreciate it. All the proceeds from that help, they go to children, mine. So I just want to make sure that but I'll send you an ebook, read it, let me know what you think, send me a review. I appreciate that. But my books are on Amazon. You can check them out. Also, I put the ebook in the beginning here for the 7 pillars. Check that out. All right, I don't know. What else we got? We got 8 good minutes of 8 good questions. Can you talk about the urgency a little bit more? How do you keep focus? How do you keep it from being hair on fire mode? Is there anything wrong with hair on fire mode, Nate? You know, a lot of people think that that's a bad place to be. I like it, right? In this organization, you know, they say you don't go into a new organization with guns blazing, and you take 90 days and you listen, and then you make changes gradually. This is not this organization. The very first day I had to stop the workforce from bickering. Second day, I had to fire somebody. Sometimes it is hair on fire. But what's your priorities, Nate? What's your top 3 priorities for the success of your organization? That's where the urgency is. It's not the top 5. It's not the top 10. We got top 10 priorities. But what are the top 3 to 5 that have to get done every day to ensure that we meet our vision? If we don't step towards the vision every day, we fail our organizations as leaders. Priorities. Give yourself the top 3 priorities, Nate. That's where the hair on fire doesn't need to be. And then be proactive in those top 3 priorities. Once you become anticipatory as to what your organization needs, you're able to see what needs to be done before it happens. You know, we develop strategy. When we're at level this, we go to these posting assignments. When people don't come in, we do this. But when does strategy become tactics? When do we pull the trigger on strategy to make them tactical and put them into play? Think about that now. Great question. As a leader of MIH program trying to get traction and change some days, it seems impossible. And like you stated, you can't move it. I'm reading it. And like you stated, it's not about anything new that we've been doing since 20. So what's the... You know, you really have to be able to... I have a different take. I've been working in community paramedicine since 2008. And it really is hard to get these programs running. And insurance companies don't seem to care that we're trying to make a difference. The difference that you make, Jennifer, is all about your organization. How do you reduce the high utilizers? How do you ensure that you're giving your patients what they need and not taking them to just where they need to go? You've got to be able to find those people in the hospitals and the ACOs and the MCOs that want to see a change. I tried to create global community paramedicine reimbursement, working with Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield for 7 years. And I couldn't get them to pull the trigger on global reimbursement. So it kind of left me a little disheartened. But you know what? I haven't given up. We start to think about mobile urgent care. We start to think about occupational health. We start to think about community paramedicine for organizations that are privately funded through their insurance. We have to be able to set the standards and be more anticipatory than wait for CMS to give us a golden goose of paying us $57 for a community paramedicine visit. How do you do it, Jennifer? We have to keep moving forward and not stop when we hear the word no. I gotta tell you, man, this is gonna be the best part of my day. I got an employee meeting today at 1 o'clock local time, or 12 o'clock local time here for me. I don't know that I'm gonna have as much fun on that as I have right here. You know why? Because you guys are here to set a standard for yourself, but to set a standard in EMS. Casey and Kyle and Tony and Elizabeth, they've been here since the beginning. And they're influencing their career field now. Who were they before they started this? Makes no difference who they were before. It's who are they now? One of the things that I always say is, who's going to take my place when I leave EMS? You know who it's going to be? It's going to be Tony. It's going to be Kyle. It's going to be Casey. It's going to be Elizabeth. It's going to be James. It's going to be Megan. It's going to be Aaron. It's going to be Sheila. If I didn't say your name, you're here too. How do you set the standards for others to follow? What do you want your career field to look like in the next 5 to 10 years? This is not just what you're doing in your organization. What are you giving back? You know why I'm here today? Because I'm honored to share a little bit of knowledge with the future leaders of our career field. I better stop while I'm ahead, right? Shouldn't I stop while I'm ahead? Yeah? All right, Ram, do you want a little closing thought here for the team, or Doug, or someone?
I just gonna say thank you, and we love listening to you. But Ron, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad there was the level of engagement. And for any of you who haven't had the Chris Cebollero experience live, you need to avail yourself of that opportunity at the next chance.
You guys, if you need me, Rom knows how to reach me. Doug knows how to reach me. They're going to send me your email. I'm going to send you a free copy of my ebook, the new ebook. I hope you find some value in it, and it's been my honor to be with you today. And thank you so much for allowing me to join you on your professional development journey. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Chris. I also left a note for Katie from the attendance from this meeting. They're going to, she's going to send you those emails, Chris. So thank you again for that as well.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.